All right, welcome back to the Queer Economy, where we celebrate LGBTQ plus people around the world as they impact business, culture, community, and more. I'm your host, Ben Ferney, and today we're joined by Ian Timbrell, founder of the nonprofit More Than Flags and Rainbows, which supports schools and charities in the UK with LGBTQ plus inclusion. Ian, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great. I'm excited.
I'd love to just give you a moment to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Ian. As Ben said, I run the not-for-profit More Than Flags and Rainbows. So, quick things about me. So, I'm a former teacher. I taught for 20 years in primary, elementary, and I absolutely loved it. I have an 11-year-old son who I adopted, and if anyone else has got an 11-year-old out there, please send me sympathy because he's desperately trying to be a teenager. He stinks, doesn't like washing anymore, and keeps me very, very busy. I'm a gay man, I'm married. I sort of spend my life now trying to make safer spaces and tackling homophobia, particularly in schools. Something I never ever thought that I would do. This was not where I thought my career would be, but I absolutely love doing it. And I've been at a Pride event today, I'm at another Pride event tomorrow. I wish I didn't need to do this job, but I absolutely love spending time getting to know more people in the LGBTQ plus community and try and make spaces safer for everyone. I'm also a huge Star Trek nerd, so I managed to get that into every conversation. So I start my training by showing a picture of me in a Star Trek outfit, so please send the Star Trek love as well.
Awesome. Before we dive into your nonprofit, I'd love to just hear, you spent 20 years in education. What was your experience getting started, and what was that like throughout that 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was never the plan. All the way through school, I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be a brain surgeon. Well, that was my plan. I actually went to medical school for 2 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it didn't quite work out. Basically, I was laid off from a job in a call centre, and one of my dad's friends said to me, "Oh, come on, just come do some reading with the kids, you know?" And I was like, "No, I can't stand kids. No way." I didn't have any kids in my family apart from my younger brother that I never got on with. So it was never on the plan. And I went into this school to do some reading, and within 10 minutes, I was a bit like, oh my gosh, this is where I was always meant to be. I absolutely loved it. And so I went back to university, became a teacher, and I loved it. I absolutely love education. I think that teaching is one of, if not the most rewarding job you can do. It's funny, I've got to that stage now where some of the children I taught have now got children who are in school, which makes me feel really old, by the way. You know, when I bumped into someone the other day whose children are now about to leave school, and that made me feel very, very old. Yeah. You know, and it was great. I loved inspiring children. I always thought, do you know what, if I'm having fun, then they are as well. So I tried to make my teaching as enjoyable and as engaging as possible. And for the last 5 years of my teaching career, I was the deputy head teacher, so a vice principal. And that was amazing, getting to turn around a school. So the school I went in was a failing school, and the head and I turned it around, and that was remarkably wonderful. It was really hard, and I only realised when I left teaching just how exhausting it is. And I think if any of you know teachers, you'll know that you don't just go in and leave at 3:30. You know, these holidays sound great, but it is so draining because you put everything into it. You put all of your emotion. You care about those 30 kids in your class. And if one of them is having a bad time, you really worry about it as well. And it takes its toll on you. So I did absolutely love it. And even though I've left teaching a couple of years ago, I still couldn't imagine not working in education. I love still going into schools and working with teachers and working with the kids. It's part of who I am now. I think even though I'm not in a school, I'm still a teacher, and I will always be a teacher.
I mean, you think about all of us went through school. It's part of growing up. It's a key place in our childhood and some of the key experiences that shape us into who we are today. So truly, any teachers out there listening, you're incredible, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And if you're not a teacher, but you know someone who is, find a way to brighten their day, because they're doing some of the best work in the community, and they're a key part of the community.
Someone pointed out to me early on in my teaching career that certainly during term time, kids spend more time with their teacher than they do with their family. You know, and I think that, you know, says it all, really. You think about everything with them. I think it's not just about English and maths. It's also, you're just so worried about their well-being, and are they happy, and are they eating well, and are they getting enough exercise? It's all, you are like a parent. You're a parent to 30 children in that school day. So definitely, teachers still inspire me every single day. And I'm so privileged that I get to work with them.
You mentioned that teachers are like a parent to 30 kids. You're now a father of a child, so how did teaching prepare you for being a dad?
Not at all. So I used to go on there's this residential place about an hour and a half where I live, where I used to take 30 kids every year for 5 days. It was exhausting, but it was brilliant. Then I took my son there about 6 weeks ago to the same place. It was far more exhausting having the one child, because I think when you've got 30 of them, they go in some sort of herd mentality. They just go along with the routine, whereas my one kept going, can we do this? Can we do this? I don't want to do that. Oh, do I have to wear this? It was exhausting. And I think I went into parenthood thinking, and my partner was just like, yeah, but you know all about the discipline stuff. You know all about this. And then very quickly you find out that actually teaching does not prepare you at all. And because your children know how to push every single button you have. And that patience I used to have as a teacher doesn't present itself that often at home. It's far easier to keep you cool in the classroom than it is with your own child.
Well, when you can clock in and clock out, whereas as a parent, it's 24/7. So that totally
They
makes sense.
know that. They're vicious, children are. They know it as well. And yeah, I mean, he's amazing. He's absolutely wonderful. He's 11 now. He's just gone up to high school and started this week. And he's absolutely incredible. And he's one of the reasons that I do this work, some things happen to him in school. But he inspires me as well. And he's made me learn loads about children and parenthood, but also about myself as well. Things that I need to learn about myself that have come out through parenting.
Awesome. Ugh, such a powerful and exciting experience. Okay, while we're on the topic of parenting, you adopted your son, you said 8 years ago, is that correct?
Yeah, just almost 9 years ago, yeah.
Years ago. What was that process like?
Intense. I mean, it's one of those things, I think, you don't really know what the adoption process is like. So I'm a huge fan of Friends. I love Friends, right? Watch it. And when Chandler and Monica adopt their child, it looks like pretty much the easiest process in the world. You fill in a couple of forms, you have an interview, and then boom, pregnant woman comes and you have a child, which could not be further away from the actual truth, For us, the process was from beginning to getting my son was 3 years. It was intense. We had 8 weeks of weekly interviews where they delve into every part of your life, your childhood, your friendships, your previous relationships, how you manage your own well-being. It was really, really intense. While the adoption process is incredible and it is wonderful and we've ended up with the most incredible son, it is really taxing and exhausting. But it has to be, because these children need to know that they're going to the right home, and that's so important. And they have to do all of this legwork to make sure that not only are you getting the right child, but that child is getting the right home. So, I've never, not one day have I ever regretted it, even on the bad days.
Totally. Talked about education, we've talked about parenting. Now let's dive in. Let's talk more about your nonprofit, More Than Flags and Rainbows.
I think my life is a bit like I never expected. I think you have your plan, don't you? When I left school at 18, I had my life plan. And this certainly was never on the agenda. And I'd been teaching for about 16, 17 years. And then my first inkling that actually we're not doing very well in this area was my class did a fashion show, and we talked about non-gendered clothing. We did loads of research into gender neutral clothing, and one of my kids in my class, we did the history of high heels, and he dared me to wear heels for the day. Now, I'd never put on a pair of heels in my life, so I've got quite big feet as well, and trying to find a pair of sensible heels for my size feet was not easy, and I ended up with these like RuPaul drag queen heels. They were huge. I spent 2 weeks in my little flat leaning against the walls trying to learn how to walk in these heels. Anyway, we did the fashion show, and one of the children had designed my outfit and I wore it, and it was amazing. And the parents thought it was hysterical. They thought it was brilliant because I was like Bambi on ice. But the message I wanted to give to the kids was, do you know what? It doesn't matter what gender you are. You can wear whatever the hell you want. It doesn't say who you are. Anyway, the photo went online and it went viral and it was amazing. And the level of support was brilliant. People just said, oh, this is really brave, etc. And then the abuse started, you know, and I started to get all sorts of abuse from people not in our school community, just to make clear, like our school community were really supportive. Even to the point where I had threats and, you know, threats against my life. And it was horrific. And the thing that really stuck out, my head teacher was incredible, but my employer, the local authority, the council, were useless. And not once did anyone from there, even though they were technically my employer, they never asked me if I was okay. No one ever checked in to see if I needed anything. No one ever approached me to say, look, do you want to talk to someone or anything? Literally, I was contacted almost every day and the email would just say, can you tell us what tweets have been sent today? And I went, hang on a minute, this is abuse that I'm getting. Why aren't I being looked after? And I think that was sort of the first thing that happened. And then the second was, for the first time ever in my teaching career, I had a child who didn't want to come to school because I was gay. It was because I had a child with another man. And my family was really ingrained in the school. My son didn't go to the school, but everyone knew that I had a son through adoption with another man. And he didn't come to school for almost 3 months. And it was a very, very similar thing. Now, my priority was getting this child back into school, but actually, where was my support? And these two things just made me go, okay, we haven't got this right. Actually, we're not recognising, one, what trauma people can go through now because of homophobia, but also there was no recognition that I was bullied horrifically when I was in school, and this was all really triggering. And this is big part of my training is actually we don't need to think about someone as homophobia or transphobia or biphobia now. It's not just then, it's thinking about what they went through in the past. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, do you know what, we'll get this charity in. We got a charity in to give training and it was dreadful. It was someone who'd never worked in a school. They didn't understand the education system. The advice they gave was very corporate. And it was at that point I sat in this training and I went, I think I can do better than this. And I was very lucky. I had a sabbatical for 6 months and I started to do loads of research in the area and it just started to snowball. And I ended up not going back to school. I did freelance training for about 2 years and then I thought, do you know what, I want to make this formal. And I set up More Than Flags and Rainbows about 18 months ago. We are a not-for-profit, but we, you know, go into schools and train, we support parents, we produce resources, and I just want to make sure that every kid in school feels safe, seen and supported. That's like our, you know, mantra. It's a very well-known safeguarding framework. And I love what I do. I'm really proud of what we've done. And the name is interesting because it came from a school who knew what I did and called me in and they said, right, can you come in and see our LGBT work? It's amazing. It's brilliant. So I went in and honestly, it looked like a unicorn had crapped over the school, right? It was rainbows everywhere. It was on everywhere, every display, everyone had lanyards, pin badges. And from the outside, it looked like a really great inclusive place. And then I started chatting. That it was a group of 17, 18-year-olds. And I said, look, what's it like in this school when someone comes out? And they were like, no one comes out in this school. I said, what do you mean? Mm. I said, you get bullied straight away. And so the school had done all these performative things about having a pride group, having a pride day, having a lanyard, having pin badges. But actually, their kids didn't feel safe. So what was the point? None of it made a difference. And that's where the name came from. And everything we do, and when I go into schools to do work, it's all about safeguarding. It's all about mental health because I am passionate about LGBTQ plus inclusion. It's not just a nice to have. We are looking after the mental health and well-being of our young people. We work nationally across the UK, but we also work really locally in South Wales where I live as well. And we're getting to know people here. And every part of the UK is different. We might be a small little island, but actually the local knowledge that I have here really helps with the local schools as well.
One of the things that you said was something along the lines of you want to make sure every child is seen, heard, valued, and loved. And that right there, that's life-saving work. You know, some kids are comfortable to come out when they are in school, but some people don't come out until they're much older because of trauma they go through in school or because of the inner work that they need to do themselves. So I think it's beautiful to honor that everyone's timeline is different while also recognizing there's work to do to create a safer place for everyone so that we can all just show up. Let's be authentic. It truly is more than just about putting up flags and rainbows. So I love that that's
it is, and those have their place. I think some people think I want to ban the rainbow flag or the progress flag. I'm not saying that you don't wear rainbow lanyards and pin badges and flags. They have an important place. You know, they are important to show that you are a safe space. But that's actually, for me, the last bit. Actually, we've got to do the rest first. We've got to make sure that our kids feel safe, that they aren't getting bullied, or if they are getting bullied, we deal with it in the right way. We've got to make sure that they're represented, so they're seeing people like them, and not in, and I hate, and this is my pet hate, is the gay lesson. You know, you wheel out the gay on a PowerPoint, and you go, this, everyone is a gay, and, you know, and we study it for a lesson, and then we forget about them for the rest of the year. That's not inclusion. That is showing that we are different and unusual, and that's not what we want. Gay people exist in the world. And I also think that a big part of what we do is about the community as well. I think lots of LGBT inclusion work focuses all on the children, which is really important. But actually, we've got parents, for example. You know, my son has 2 dads, and actually a lot of the work I do is making sure they feel safe as well, that they feel safe, that they can be open about who they are. Because if you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, you can say that you're married, and you can hold hands, and you can do all these things. So a same-sex couple should be able to do exactly the same as well. So a lot of the work we do is thinking outside the school gates as well, so that when those parents come in, they know that this is a real safe place.
It truly is taking a bird's eye view of the community and recognizing the student, the teacher, the parent, administrators, and all the people throughout the community.
I put a video on Instagram yesterday, which was saying about that actually teachers need to be educated as well. So we don't know what we don't know. It's easy to blame schools, and actually what we need to do rather than blame is we need to educate. And one of the videos I put on was about how we refer to birth parents of adopted children. We have to share my son's life story because he still has contact through letters with his birth family. So we have to inform the teachers because he may bring it up. And one of the teachers once said, oh yeah, is there anything else you can tell us about his real parents? And I said, well, we are his real parents. And they went, no, I mean his real ones. And I was like, we are his real parents. Do you mean birth parents? Is that what you mean? And they're like, oh yeah. And they brushed it off as if it was nothing. It might seem like a really small word, but what you just said is that we are not real. We're fake or imaginary. And so these small words, we might not realise it when we say it, but they can have a huge impact on other people, both positively and negatively. And we have to educate teachers on these things because they don't know if they don't know, you know, and I don't blame teachers for not knowing these things. But I think it's important that there's constant education in these areas. There's always something to learn.
100%. It takes some courage to walk away from a stable career, especially where you'd been in education for 20 years, and to turn around and go, okay, we're doing something completely different. But it's powerful that you were willing to do that, and now to see the impact that it's having in many communities, I'm sure is powerful.
I mean, the story of how it sort of came up with the idea is quite funny. So all this had happened, and then I was going for interviews for head teacher, and I didn't get one. The first one I went for, I didn't expect to get it, but I didn't. And I just remember thinking, actually, I'm quite relieved I didn't get it. I think I'd really reached the point where I recognised I needed to do something different. And we were in the back garden. It was about 2:00 in the morning. We'd had a couple of bottles of wine, and we came up with this idea of I was going to leave teaching and do this work. My now husband couldn't remember that conversation. We'd had too much wine. I remembered it. The next day I bought a whiteboard. I'd come in here, I did a full business plan, and then said to him, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to leave teaching in January. I'm going to do this. And he was like, what? He couldn't remember any of the conversation at all. And it was scary. It was really scary. You know, I was in a career where great pension and great pay, and it was stable, it was secure, and it was really scary. I mean, I was fortunate that my husband had a really good job. We had this conversation, we went, look, if I don't earn any money for 6 months, we can survive, you know? Yeah. But I was fortunate that it really was successful, and it's a plunge that I'm really glad I took.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what exactly you offer, what exactly you do. So you go to a school, you give a training. I'd love to just hear, when you look at More Than Flags and Rainbows, what is included in that? What do you do exactly?
I wanted to do something different that other people were doing. Many of the other charities in this area will do exactly what you just said. They'll go in, they'll deliver staff training, they'll go away, and they'll never hear from them again. And the problem with that is that, one, it's just ticking a box, but also it takes a long time for this change. Lots of people may need to unlearn things, they need to learn things. And so what I want to do with the schools I work with is build a relationship with them. So one of the first things that I do is I go into school and I spend a whole day in the school and I speak to children, staff, sometimes parents, look at their curriculum, look at their policies, so that when I do deliver that training, it's really specific for their community, because every school is on a different part of that journey. So I really get to know them really well, and then we deliver in training, and I always start with safeguarding and why this work is important. The staff need to understand what the cost of not doing this work is. So that's the first session, and then we build a relationship. And some of the schools that I've worked with, I go back and do refresher training. I'm now working with groups of schools to create leaflets for parents on what to do if their child's been bullied, for example. And it's all about that building relationships. So we probably work with less schools than an organisation similar to our size, but we work with them a lot more, and the impact is huge. And I do get schools who will email me and go, can you do a 1 hour session to make us LGBT inclusive? And I'm like, no, because that is ticking a box, and I have to hold that value. And it can be scary sometimes when we have to make sure we have to pay my salary, we have to pay the bills. You think, I just want to get all the work in, and we've got to the point where we do say no to schools that we feel are ticking a box, or schools we feel aren't ready for that journey. I do say no, and early in this work it made me sick. I would feel ill and guilty, and now I recognise, actually no, I want to work with the schools who really want to change, and I learn loads from them as well. So for instance, we were just publishing an anti-bullying booklet for parents that came from an idea for a school. Now, I wouldn't have had that idea if I just went in quickly, tick a box and never gone back. It came from a school we've got a very close relationship with. Some schools I've now been working with for 3 years, and it's beautiful to see their journey. And actually some of these schools are now starting to share their journey with other schools. It's all about relationships.
What an incredible approach, because you're truly building it out of the need you're seeing rather than the need you think there is, which I think is a powerful distinction.
It is, and it is a lot more work. It would be really easy to have a standard PowerPoint that I just go in and deliver, and it is a lot of work because I have to tailor everything. I am really proud of our approach, because actually, we are really confident that that gets the best outcomes. And I've worked with schools. I was in a school last year where it was 95% Muslim pupils, for example. That is going to look very, very different to an all-white Christian farming community. If I went in and tried to do the same work with those two schools, I'd have to do something generic where it would be a disaster for both of them. And that's it. Every school is different, and every school has to go on its journey in its own pace. It's really important that we treat every community, every school, even every pupil as an individual.
Powerful. Do you have any stories or experiences that demonstrate the impact that you've seen?
One of the first schools I worked with, it was a friend of mine actually, was the head teacher, and called me in, gave me a chance in the early days, and is now one of our schools who I've worked with for 3 years. And about a year after I did the first session, so I did a staff training session, and I also did some workshops with the pupils, and he sent me an email, and there was a letter from a pupil that had gone on to high school, and she had come out in secondary school, and she wrote me this beautiful letter, basically said thank you for the workshop, because although it took her a year to do it, she had the confidence to come out to her family, because before that she thought that she was the only one who felt that way. She didn't realise that there were other people. I cried when I read the letter. It was just going, this is why I do it. And even if I just made a difference for that one child, I got the letter just before I was thinking about setting up the not-for-profit, and I think it really made me go, we've got something good here. And that pupil is thriving. And what we now recognise is they had very challenging behaviour when they were younger. We now know why, because they were grappling with their identity. They didn't know who they was, and they were lashing out because they didn't understand their identity. And that really, when I'm having a bad day, I read that letter.
And that's just one of the stories you've heard. There's countless others who you've stood in front of and spoken, or staff have handled situations better because of your trainings. And who knows, they may never reach out, but you know that you're out there and you're making a difference. So that's very powerful.
Yeah, that's why we do it. I think one of the other things that was really powerful was I worked with a high school where they invited the parents in, and the pupils did, instead of doing a pride event in a traditional sense, all the children created artwork to describe their identity. And one of the parents came out to me, and I was the first person she'd ever come out to, and she just said that she felt it was a really safe space. That was actually when I talked earlier about the importance of thinking about community, that was when I realised actually we need to think outside the school gates. And actually we need to be thinking about the parents as well. That was very moving.
Oh, it's amazing the work that you're doing. And I think at times it might feel like, how do we make this a worldwide success or even a national success? But at the end of the day, it's your own backyard and it's your own local community that can have the most impact.
Yeah, and so I have two directors, two volunteers who support me and shout at me when I'm not doing certain things. So when I try to do too much work, generally they tell me off because I'm trying to do too many things. I love a new idea, see. But one of the things that we've talked a lot about is how big do we want to get? Do we want to be employing loads of people to deliver this work to become a big organization? And we've decided that no, that's not for us. We have capacity, we have the work coming in that I could very easily employ several people. But I think actually one of the powerful things about us is we're a very small group. We know what we want. We all have the same values. We want the same things. And so what we will probably do, rather than expanding our reach more, is try to do more things with the communities we've got. And I think that's where we've decided to go. And I think there can be a lot of pressure on organisations. You've got to be the biggest, you've got to be the best. And biggest isn't always best. And actually, I think we can do far more being a small local organisation than trying to overstretch.
Totally. That's amazing, Ian. This is so cool. It's been so fun to hear your story and hear about the incredible things you're doing. So for anyone out there who wants to follow along with what you're doing, support what you're doing, or even inquire about a training at their school, go ahead and give a plug of all the places that people can contact and follow you.
Yeah, so More Than Flags and Rainbows on Instagram is the best place to get us. You can also find me on TikTok, where my son laughs at me going, "You're too old to be on TikTok." But you can search for Ian Timbrell on TikTok, and also on LinkedIn. You can look for More Than Flags and Rainbows. And if you want to find out more about our work, you can just Google More Than Flags and Rainbows. You can also get my book. I haven't plugged my book, look, even though it's sat behind me. I can't believe I've written a book. It was quite surreal when I was asked about a year and a half ago to write a book, and essentially everything I've talked about today is in that book, and it's available on Amazon if you wanted to get that. But just, if anyone has any questions, please just message me, and if I'm not the right person, I will know someone who is the right person to do this. And never be afraid to think, "Oh, I can't ask that, it's too embarrassing, no one's ever asked that before." Trust me, you will not ask me a question I haven't heard before. And the way that we can learn together is by asking questions. So please reach out, it'd be amazing to connect. And if you have some good stories, I love hearing about success stories as well. I'd love to hear from schools who are doing really good work, because I can learn from that as well.
And Ian's Instagram is full of lots of great quick snippets of things that you can easily apply or share within your own community as well. So make sure you check him out and follow him. Ian, before we head to wrapping up the episode, is there anything else you want to share with us?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me on to talk about the work, but also thank you, people, for listening, because one of the ways we can improve this is all about learning. Just thank you to everyone. And I think what Ben said earlier about remember their teachers and say well done to the teachers in your lives. Look after them. It's a really hard job. They do an amazing job.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, we're headed to the way I like to end every episode, which is just a fun lightning round.
I've been nervous about this since I read the email.
There's no pressure. These are just for fun. Nothing to be super stressed about. Are you ready?
No, because I'm an overthinker. So you know that whatever answers I give now, right, I will be stressing about this for weeks and weeks and weeks about, "Oh, I could have said it better. I could have come up with it better." But anyway, let's get it over. Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay, what is your favorite food?
Curry.
See, that was easy. Any specific kind of curry?
I like two. I always have a lamb pasanda, which is like an almond and cream curry, and then a chicken pathia, which is like a hot sweet and sour one.
Awesome. Okay, what is your favorite thing to do in your free time when you're not working?
Play board games, and I'm a huge geek with board games. In lockdown, I spent almost £2,000 on board games. So I love playing board games, and particularly with my husband or my son.
Okay, next question. What is your favorite TV show and or book right now?
Favorite TV show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I am so excited. The pilot finished filming yesterday, and I am giddy. My husband has never watched it, so I've basically said we are watching it from beginning to end before the new series comes out, or we will be getting divorced. So absolutely, Buffy is by far the best. Also do love Star Trek Voyager. Favourite book? I love anything by Roald Dahl. So I love Roald Dahl. I grew up with him. I've now given my Roald Dahl books to my son, and I know they're very politically incorrect, but they hold such cherished childhood memories for me. And also now, other authors are writing sequels to his books. So we're just reading the sequel to, or the prequel actually, to The Twits. And I'm reading that with my son. And I think they're just hilarious.
Okay, you ready for my favorite and last question? If you were to get on an elevator and the other person in the elevator was your younger self, what piece of advice or what would you share with your younger self?
Don't spend so much on board games. No, give me an age.
You pick.
Oh, God, right, okay. I think I would speak to 11-year-old myself, because I was a really happy kid until 11, and unfortunately I was bullied horrifically after the age of 11. And I would say, do not put up with it. Actually, you need to tell people. You need to tell people this is not okay. A mistake I made was that I told one person and they ignored me, and I didn't tell anyone else. What I should have done was told more people that this was happening, and maybe my school life would have been very different. If you are being bullied, or if someone you know is being bullied, you need to do something about it. You need to tell. Don't sit on it, because it will sit with you for the rest of your life.
Powerful. Okay, Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show, so much for sharing all the work that you're doing. It's really inspirational and empowering to see that truly at the end of the day, there are things that we can do within our own community just to help us all be a little better. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
No, thank you so much. It's lovely to be able to share it, and just, you know, a final thank you to everyone who's supported us so far, because we couldn't do this work without the people that support us.
Awesome. All right, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Until next time, be kind, be bold, be you. That's all for now.